Well, hello and thanks for joining us on a special State of Origin review episode, thanks to Tab, where us Queenslanders are still gloating, and rightly so, after magnificent against all odds series victory by Billy Slater's men. You two, Wally Lewis, Darren Lockyer, you've been involved in some epic series wins for Queensland over the years. We've had a week to digest it. Where does this rank? How do you rate this one?
Well, I think the performance in Game 3, I don't think I've seen a better performance from an effort combined with execution perspective. Like, the first two games, like we won the first half in Perth.
Yeah.
That got us to a decider, and then we just absolutely nailed Game 3. So I think, given where we were after Game 1, like it's a huge comeback.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful comeback. Some of the New South Wales media were quite rubbishing the Queensland team as usual. I mean, it does happen pretty regularly, and we got to see them be very critical of the players in the Queensland team, suggesting that they weren't up to the standard that New South Wales would be, and naturally the Blues were going to be quite favourites for the game. In Origin, you never rubbish the opposition. You try and make sure that the respect is there for it, so that every player in the team will perform up to their highest. But certainly the players in the New South Wales team realised they were in a match right from the start, and I've got to say that you could just see the surprise upon their face when Queensland took control of the game.
Yeah, 100% completion rate in the first half. I think 68th minute until they made their first mistake. What does that do to an opposition team when you're just grinding them to death?
Well, when they were going set for set, New South Wales were winning the battle of field position, but just from the ability of the Queenslanders to, maintain possession and keep turning New South Wales away from the try line, it just deflated them. But then also, when we saw the Harry Grant try just before half-time, that was a reflection of the completion rate.
Yeah.
The fatigue started to set in New South Wales, and they were just hanging on by the skin of their teeth. And then Harry Grant gets that right at half-time, and that was an indication of how well Queensland had played.
Yeah, and Lockyer, I'm sure, one of the thrills you and I have both had captaining the Queensland side is when you're asking the team to produce a style of play, an example of play, and to see them put that into absolute perfection and get through the tackle count to be able to be in a great position to put every now and then there'll be a kick to get out of a little bit of strife, make some territory down in the field, but usually when the effect of that kick took place, it was New South Wales that were under grim pressure to try and get out of their own territory without making a mistake themselves.
Yeah, we harp on about completion rates because you don't want to put pressure on yourself in a game. And the higher the level of the game, the higher emphasis you have on it, because fatigue plays a big part. When you've got the best players out there, if you're playing against a fatigued defence, you're going to find a way.
Yeah. It was almost like, to me, a baseball match, like a pitcher pitching a perfect game. It was like watching the Queensland team do that. So from my perspective, it's top 3 all time. So I've still got Fatty's 1995, just the romance behind that. The difficulties they face, and with that in mind, 2020, similar sort of thing, the COVID era, New South Wales said it was the worst team of all time. So to me, it's in the top 3 with 95, 2020 and 2025. Like I wasn't lucky enough to see a lot of your era in 1980s.
You were going to tell me that you weren't born in that day, weren't you?
That was my polite way of saying that. But what are the ones that still stand out for you guys?
1987, right?
Yeah.
So Game 1, that was Mark McGaw scores the try right at
the
time.
death. Yep.
And so you guys win the next 8 games straight, So that was the start of an era where that series was significant.
Yeah.
But the ones you mentioned, I agree. I think 95 probably is number 1.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this series that's just gone by, like we nailed 40 minutes in Perth and we nailed the Game 3.
The ones that mattered,
the moments that mattered,
What about you? You played in, Locky. What's the one that stands out, the best series?
Well, for me, 2001.
Yeah, okay,
When Elf came back. Just from, I guess, well, there's that one. And 06 was big as well. We lost Game 1 and came back and won the last 2 games to win 06. But Game 1 in 2001, we had 10 debutants.
Yeah.
Might have even been 11. it was the last game before they ripped down the old Lane Park.
Yeah.
So that was game 1. We won that. And we got beaten game 2, and then Alf game 3. So that was memorable.
In similar sort of way, having Josh Papali'i came back, I know completely different position to Alf, but can you remember back the inspirational effect that had? And similarly, it looked like it had that effect on the current Queensland forwards especially.
Yeah.
Well, some players just bring confidence. And that's what Alf did when he came back in 01. Everyone rose with him. And I think Papali'i, I guess, more in particular, was probably the forwards. The young forwards around him, what he did to them, but then also the potential sort of intimidation that he gave the New South Wales team.
Yeah, and Lockyer, in a funny sort of a way, I think the further the match went, the better he felt about himself. He was fantastic. I mean, he's been around for a while now to know what self-confidence is all about, but the way that he led, that was fantastic, and it really did inspire those around him, and just as importantly, made life very difficult for those opposing him.
Yeah, his second stint was very good.
Yeah.
And that's when the game was on the line, and he sort of pushed the button and sort of put his stamp on the game.
Yeah. And he got the best out of Tino. That was by far and away Tino's best Origin game of the year.
Yeah, that's my point about, some players just bring confidence to others, and Josh did that to Tino.
Yeah, I actually had to give Papali'i a lift at Origin camp up at Twin Waters. So we were doing his media conference because he came into camp late, and Mick Hilliard, their media manager, called me at Twin Waters and said, yeah, we're coming, but we're a 15-minute walk. We're on the other side of the resort. So I'm like, I'll drive my car and pick him up. But on my little Hyundai Elantra, we had to jack the seat back as far as possible, yeah.
Do you remember the scene Hightower and Police Academy?
Yeah. Similar sort of thing. But then I drove up. Papali'i was very thankful, and we got it done.
I thought you were about to say that you were very helpful to be able to get him back there. You just didn't want to be sitting next to him at dinner time.
Oh, that's it, yeah. He's a big man, but we're so grateful that he came back for that. Yeah. But I guess you've got to give it to Billy too, how brave all those selection calls were throughout the series, not just bringing Papali'i back, axing a captain mid-series, and the guy you axe him for wins player of the series. That's unheard of.
Well, all the selectors would have had to work with him and do plenty of discussion. And you're right. It's a bit hard for Locky to say, but everybody that I was in conversation with were talking about what a brave move it is. Oh, this could be the end. This could be the end. Well, it could have been the end, but it could also been the winner as well, which it did prove to be, and a fantastic move. And I think that's the wonderful thing with Queensland teams that have been selected previously. There have never been any changes made that have proved to be absolute disasters. There's been a few brave calls, but each and every one of those has proven to be the right one at that time.
Yeah, I think if you've got a gut feel, and you basically you got to do what you think's best for the team, and that's what Billy said at the time. You don't worry about what people think about it.
Yeah.
You just go with what you think's right for the team, and there'll be evidence that backs that decision up as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes, one call is much bigger than the other because of someone like Daly, who's the captain of the team, and what he's done for Queensland. That's a difficult decision. But I think when it comes down to whether you're making the decision to bring Rob Toyer into the team, you're doing it for the same reasons.
Yeah, and Locky, I don't think there's been a decision made over the years which has proved to be the wrong one.
Yeah.
And caused Queensland disaster. We like to be able to trust our mates and believe that they're about to produce a game. There are some that have proved to be the necessary changes, but I don't think there's ever been one as difficult as it could be to make that one, which has proved to be a disaster.
Yeah. How much do you guys, the selectors, now you can talk about the series is over, how much do you agonise over that DCE decision?
Look, I think there was commentary around Daly's position in the team after game 1, so I think it's not like it was a surprise to everyone. And obviously it was debated, discussed. But again, like Billy's, we know he's very diligent. He'll go away and watch the game. He'll go away and study what these guys are doing at Clubland. And he's very much someone who likes to pick players that are in winning teams with good habits and in a good culture. So that's not to say that's not Manly, but I think he does his due diligence based on the evidence he's got. And so from the selector's perspective, again, we have a gut feel of what we're thinking and what we're seeing. And at the end of the day, if the coach, is wanting to go that way, like if we don't really see a reason not to go down that path, then why would we challenge it?
Yeah. And you mentioned there before Robert Toyer, also his other centre partner, Gemmet Shibasaki. What an amazing story. This time last year, he wasn't even playing NRL. He was playing Queensland Cup. He was a youth support worker in Townsville. But to see him come in for a decider in enemy territory, no more difficult situation, and he nailed it.
No, he sure did. And, everybody's able to hide a little bit of extreme nerves in the course of a match. But he looked very cool, calm and collected. He knew what the challenge was in front of him. He was quite prepared to work with those alongside him in the way that the plan had put out. And I thought his performance was absolutely wonderful. It was one of those performances that you had to sit back and admire. And again, you'd put out that he wasn't the man of the match, but had he been the worst player on the field, he could have cost his team any chance of victory. So it was a wonderful performance, and it'll be good that we're going to see him for quite some time.
Yeah, again, back to that point where Bill, guys that are playing in teams, at that point in time, the Broncos are winning, he's playing well. And I think Billy backs himself to get the best out of the individual. He knows what they're capable of. He backs himself to get the player prepared and get the best out of him on the night. Now, there's a couple of shaky moments early in the game at the start, but as the game wore on, and the real turning point in that game was when they kicked out on the dead ball line. We got a 7-tackle set and got 2 points. Everyone just calmed down. And after that moment, every player, like Shibasaki, just grew with confidence.
And he'd been very complimentary to his Melbourne Storm coach, Craig Bellamy. A couple of times he said, some of the things he used to ask him, why he made such a move, why the decision was put in place. And obviously he stuck to the ones that, were his own thought as well. But to have respect for a guy that he learnt a lot under certainly was a benefit as well. Yeah,
you can really see Billy Slater, the likes of Cam Smith and Cooper Cronk, how much they've learnt under Craig Bellamy. It's succeeded them post-playing career as well. But Gemmet Shibasaki's grandma was one of the stars of the show. We interviewed her at the airport. She was amazing talent. She'd come down from Thursday Island, so the very top tip of Queensland, and she was saying she was driving in a car with the Apple CarPlay hands-free, and Gemmet calls her, and she nearly crashed the car, she said. She had to slam on the brakes. She was that excited and nervous. She pulled to the side of the road to hear her grandson make his origin debut. So there's stories like that.
That's a fairy tale story. Gemmet, and credit to him. But just when that happens, and a family galvanises around you, it's such a special time in your life. Yeah, you're right, Lockyer. It just made you feel very glad to be a Queenslander on that day. Everything about it had Queenslander written all over it. And speaking of family too, the Cameron Munster situation, we have to touch on that. Those amazingly emotional scenes at the end, Billy Slater hugging Cameron Munster, and for him to even play, what does that say about him? Well, he's a great man, and I'm sure that final training session that we were there. We were there, and to see the obviously you'd be feeling pretty ordinary in a situation like that, but he was in a very jovial mood, cracking jokes about it, the way he was going to be feeling, and you kind of got the impression that he dealt with that prior to that, and his sole intentions were to concentrate as well as he possibly could and lead by example. Yeah, look, I never was in that situation. I don't think too many people have. I think the game might have, being the captain of Queensland, might have been a nice distraction for him a little bit to take his mind off the family situation at the time. Highly emotional for him as well. This is probably, to date, one of the biggest games of his career. It's the captain of Queensland, newly appointed, series on the line. So I think he felt a duty to the state, but he also felt, I think, a duty to his family and to his dad. So, and it was a great outcome. Yeah, and it was a class act, what Wal was alluding to there about the training session. They didn't just get Cam Munster back. His mum was there, his sister, his wife, his children as well, some of his immediate family. The fact that as hard it is to take the mind off it, the situation with his father for a couple of days and really invite them into the inner sanctum, I think that meant a lot to that Munster family as well. And as Queenslanders, we're extremely grateful for what Cameron Munster did to come back and lead the state to victory. Undefeated now.
as an Origin captain, Cameron Munster. Who'd have thought? 2 from 2. What a turnaround. But his halves partner, man of the match and player of the series, the Wally Lewis medalist. I know he's one of your favourite players, well, but how special was that moment, putting that medal on Tom Dearden's neck?
Yeah, fantastic. Wynnum boy had the opportunity, and what I like about him is that he's a very determined young man. He has challenges in mind that he likes to go out there and try and achieve 100%. And I like him. I like him as a footy player, and I like him as a bloke because there's no BS about him.
Yep.
He gets out and does the level best that he can each and every time, and feels a very big part of the team. But he doesn't feel any better than anybody else. But he likes to go out there and prove that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a competitor and just a top bloke, competitive. Just he never disappoints with his effort every week. And as this series has been wonderful for his development. Yeah. He's only going to grow and get more confident and get better as a halfback. So it's a reward for his effort. He deserves the Wally Lewis medal, and it's just great to see him achieve that. Given obviously he left the Broncos to go to the Cowboys, and he's now where he belongs.
Yeah. As a Bronco, do you look at it and go, oh, we might have got that one wrong?
Oh, look, I think at the time the Broncos were looking for an experienced halfback. Yeah. So I don't begrudge the decision at the time. I just think that was the situation the Broncos were in, and Adam Reynolds had an immediate impact.
Yeah.
And Tom's gone to the Cowboys, and he's worked his way back to the top.
Yeah, has been playing 5'8", switches back to number 7, and boy, what a performance! And it'll be good to be able to rely upon him in the years to come.
And JT, of course, is in camp as one of Billy Slater's assistant coaches. How beneficial do you think that would have been, having someone who's just an expert half there to mentor him?
Well, there's so many similarities in terms of Tom Dearden idolised JT, and I think what he took out of watching JT was how competitive he was, right?
Yeah.
And then, so to do that, and then the show and go that he's got in his game, and he gets a try, I had a chuckle when that happened because I felt like that was when we won the game, when he scored that try.
Yeah.
So there's so many similarities there, and it's just good to have someone like that wearing that jersey.
Yeah, and they covered defending tackle on Brian Toho. That was excellent. Yeah. That was effort personified as well.
Yeah, I don't know if JT gets across to that. I don't know if
he doesn't quite have the speed of Tom Dearden. Speaking of speed, I was talking to Ruben Cotter after the match. He made that break early in the game and he passed it to Hammer and he fumbled.
Yeah.
And he said, Hammer just ran too fast. He goes, I couldn't judge how fast he was running and I passed it, and by the time it got to him, he was behind him. So, even that
was a try gone begging.
Yeah. Even Queensland teammates are in awe how far Hammer was. And I think for his development, that was great for him to get a game in his preferred position too. And he didn't miss a beat. He's a guy we forget about in that game. And defensively, that was probably his best game as a fullback.
He saved tries. He scored. Well, he didn't score any. He set one up.
Yeah.
And there was no errors in his game.
Yeah.
He took the bomb, nearly got away. Latrell was the last man, just got him.
Yeah.
He had a big game.
Yeah. And that pass that sets up Dearden's try, if you go back and watch it, he's where Rob Toyer almost goes into touch, flicks it back to Hammer. Hammer's speed beats everyone on the sideline, but he's got to pass the ball in between two New South Wales players to nail Tom Dearden. If you go back and watch that in slow motion, it's amazing how good he is with his pass.
Yeah. The road runner. Beep, beep.
Yeah. But the speed, it's unbelievable.
You can't beat speed?
No, he takes off and you get the impression that he's not going as fast as he can, but you can see that he's clearly outrunning any of the cover defence that's coming across. There's no chance of catching him, and he's able to control that speed with the boom.
The Crichton save, that was a big one.
Yeah. It's almost as if he's got roller skates on when he's on the field. He's just gliding around the field. Might have to check his boots there, the Hammer. But now might be a good time to move on to our Tab Big Call. Thanks again for our great sponsors for this season, Tab. There's the Aussie squad that will be picked at the end of the year for the Kangaroo Tour. So, based on what you saw in Origin, who has the edge in the halfback position? Does Nathan Cleary get dethroned by Tom Dearden?
No. No. I mean, if you pick the Australian team after that game, you might get there might be a lot of Queenslanders in that team, but, once I guess once the dust settles, I mean, Nathan Cleary's the best
Halfback of the game,
if not the best player in the game.
Yeah, and can kick a goal as well.
Yeah.
At different times. So.
I think he was clearly a lot more injured than he let on, Nathan Cleary, throughout the series.
Yeah. Well, he loves his goal kicking. So
Yeah.
to give that up, like, that's a big sacrifice for him.
Yeah.
And he's been rested this week for the Panthers too, which says something. Well, then, apart from... Who would you say, from that Queensland perspective, from the Origin victory in the Kangaroos team? So you think maybe Munster's a given. Harry Grant was also excellent. Who else potentially do you see touring England at the end of the year from the Maroons?
I think Hammer.
Yeah. So versatile, can play anywhere in the back line.
I thought Val Holmes' series was good.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. Those hits on Latrell were some of my favourite moments of the series.
Who else?
Qlder, I think Qlder's...
Yeah, Qlder's. It's ridiculous how much work he gets through.
Yeah.
And he can do it in many positions, Lockyer, too.
Yeah.
He's an extraordinary player. One of those blokes you love having in the team with you. You can count on him 7 days a week.
There's Tino.
Yeah. I think Carrigan going to the bench was a masterstroke. He really provided a lot of impact coming from the interchange in game 2 and 3.
Yeah, and Pat, being able to switch from lock forward to front row.
Yeah.
Back in my days, no one wanted to play in the front row. You come up with an injury so that you didn't have to play and play in the front row. But his ability to be able to fill multiple positions is extremely impressive.
I think we underestimate what 14, 15, 16, 17 does for a game. It's a big part of, because often two teams will go at it, and as the game starts to open up a bit, those guys are the key of maintaining the momentum. Yeah,
and Lockyer, I'd say it did play a major role in the selection of the team as well, picking the guys to be able to fill those multiple positions.
Well, probably for the individual, but, people talk about Paddy Carrigan got dropped to the bench.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean that his role's any less. If anything, it could be more important.
Yeah.
And you could almost play more minutes too if you come off of the bench too. So I think that was a real positive, mixing up Pat Carrigan's game. And Lindsay Collins was really good as well.
Yeah, Lindsay Collins, but Xavier Coates.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's another one.
So reliable. Well, while we're on the topic of touring England, Ashes tour at the end of the year, you guys were lucky enough to do it. What are some of your best memories of going to England back in the day? These could be some stories that get us into trouble.
On tour stays on tour. There's a very famous saying.
What did I say a couple of months ago? The best memories are the ones you don't remember.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good times of having a beer at the pub, like a old school corner pub in England. Those the little ones where the doorways are about that high. So they were built in the 14th century. I always say my second fondest memories as a rugby league player was touring for Australia. Well, some of my fondest memories is playing for Australia in the UK, because you go over there with your mates. Very rarely would your families be there or come with you. So it's just you and your teammates for, well, sometimes 8-10 weeks.
Yeah. Right.
So you get up to a lot of footy on the field and training, but you get up to a lot of fun off the field as well.
Yeah.
But one of my favourites, and I know I've told you this one, Adam, was Rod Reddy, who'd been there before. He knew about some of the tricks that used to go on, and whenever we got to England, we used to pick up the Yorkshire Post, have a look in there, and the guys that had been there before used to say, you've got to get out, leave Leeds, go and tour around the place. And we said, how do you do that? And he said, well, you buy a car out of the paper, the Yorkshire Post, and we said, oh, well, we haven't done that. Rocket said, I've done it before, just leave it to me. And he rang up and he said, hello, you've got this advertisement in here for this 1955 Hillman imp. I just happen to be the only living Hillman imp expert in Australia. So if you could bring that around and give me a look at it, but you've got in here £300. I think that's a little bit too much. But just bring it round. And we went downstairs and I said to Rocket, what's a Hillman imp look like? And he said, I got no idea. I've never heard of a Hillman imp before. Wouldn't know. And it turned up, and we had a look at this little thing, and it was for me, Gene Miles, Greg Kaneski was in the car, and we thought, here we go. We've got to be able to talk about this car. Rocket said, just leave it for me. And he said, mate, I'll give you one chance. He said, if you can start the car straight up, first time, we'll take it. And he said, so lift the bonnet. And the guy said, but sir, and he said, shut up. He said, if it can start first up, we'll take the car. And he said, well, yeah, but he said, lift the bonnet. And he said, and you're an expert on the car, are you? And he said, yes. And he lifted the bonnet. There was a spare tyre and a jack there. The engine was actually in the car. And he said, you're an expert on the car. And we ended up getting, I think, £100 less after he continued the deal on. And it turned out to be a wonderful way to get out and see the countryside of England, which, as Lockyer would sort of understand, it's fantastic when you get a day off just to go out and tour and take the pressure off.
Yeah.
There was one of us still there, but because I've been to Leeds probably, I don't know, at least half a dozen times with the Kangaroos, and there's a hotel called Queen's, and it's right next to the city square. It's got a grass
it's up in the corner.
It's got a grassed area in the middle. And at this time, a lot of us were golfers, right? I don't golf anymore, but a lot of us were golfers, and we'd obviously get bored at night. So we decided to put the bed up against the window and then put the golf ball on the bed and start hitting some 9-irons out of the windows into this green space in the middle of the city square of Leeds. We'd make sure there was no one around.
Yeah.
And then the next morning we go and check, see who's closest to the pin.
Nice. Great stuff. So
They're the ones we can tell.
Yeah, that's it. Interesting to see who will be the coach too for this Ashes too, with Mel Meninga standing down. Kangaroos still yet to name their coach. But moving on to club footy, kicks off round 20. Hard to believe it's round 20 already. Thursday night footy on 9 to World Sports, a Queensland derby. Injury hit Dolphins up against the Cowboys. Crucial games for both of those sides. But the Broncos, they've really turned it on. 5 wins in a row. What do you think? What have you sensed from them? What's changed with Brisbane?
Obviously, Ezra coming back, Reece coming back, and now Ben Hunt's just come back. I think he'll find his feet after a couple of weeks. So a bit of personnel. Defensively, they're much better.
Yeah.
I still think attack is not where it needs to be. I still think they're a little bit impatient with their attack. If they can complete high and get their defence where it is, I like where they're going. But I think the biggest change has been their defence and their personnel coming back to score points.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think we've seen anywhere near their best footy yet. I think they've got some impressive form to come at the business end of the season, and that's exactly when it comes into play. Coming up against the powerhouse sides, well, in saying that, I think everybody would have to agree that nobody has been in the form that they'd love to have going into the finals. There's all of the clubs indeed have shown some pretty ordinary form, or not their best form, might be a better way of saying it, that they all realise that they have to improve greatly if they're hopeful of picking up the grand final trophy.
Yeah, the final 5 rounds, Locky, they have to play the Melbourne Storm twice. The Broncos.
Yeah.
Good or a bad thing?
Oh, good. At the end of the day, if you're going to win the competition, you've got to beat the best. So,
yeah.
Ideally, history shows that you need to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
So the Broncos are chasing. I think everyone seems to think that the Broncos are chasing the Warriors into the top 4 because they think Warriors have had a few injuries and Warriors need to drop some games. But, they're a good team, the Warriors, and so you obviously can't rely on that. I think they've just got to keep playing well, keep building their game, but playing the Storm, like I said, if you're going to win the comp, you've got to beat the best.
Got to beat them,
Yeah.
And winning those 5 games.
Yeah,
that's fantastic, and you can imagine what it's done to their self-belief and the creativity of their play, which Madge has obviously worked on that enormously throughout the course of their training sessions, and it's going in the right direction.
And to me, the competition's as wide open as it's ever been. If I say to you, who's your premiership tip? Who's your premiership favourite? Like, it's hard to settle on a team. You don't really know.
Well, I think the 3 consistent teams are the ones in the top 3. So you got the Storm, Bulldogs, Raiders.
Yeah.
They're consistently good each week, and that's probably what's given them the opportunity to be where they are on the ladder. The rest of them, there's teams out there that could probably potentially beat those teams on their day.
Yeah.
But they've been inconsistent along the way.
Yeah, and Panthers, you got to watch out for them too because they're slowly creeping up the ladder.
Yeah. Surely not.
Yeah.
5 in a row. Surely.
No.
After that start to the season.
I agree with you, Locky, 5 in a row. But while I've got that doubt about them doing 5 in a row, I've had a little bit of belief in them every week, and I'm still tipping them. I'm expecting that they're going to fix their poor form, and they're going to do it. Whether they will or not, I guess, can only be decided by their performances and Cleary's fitness. That's probably something that I've had some doubts about, but I agree they can't win another one. Yeah. Surely.
Well,
I said they couldn't win.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of the Bulldogs too, a Bulldogs fan came up to me at Parramatta Park when I was doing a cross for 9 News during Origin and said he watches our show, Queenslander show. He goes, I'm a New South Welshman, I'm a Bulldogs supporter, but I still watch the show. I try to get as much NRL information. So shout out to that bloke, I forgot his name, who came up to me, a Bulldogs fan at Parramatta Park.
And the Bulldogs are starting to display the form that made them so famous in the 80s.
Yeah.
That was a team that... they had that were full of dominance in the forwards, had some star power in the back line, but it was the sort of display that they used to produce each and every week, which got them enormous respect and immediate respect from their opponents. And whilst it's been missing sadly over the last few years in particular, they're starting to produce some good form.
Well, defence wins it.
Yeah.
Well, that's always been what history shows, and the Panthers are starting to get their defence in order. The Bulldogs are the best defensive team in the comp. And the reason why the Bronx are going a bit better is their defence is a lot better.
Yeah, that's it. And before we wrap it up, we'll talk a little bit about the Titans. Speaking of the top 4 teams, someone pulled out a good stat to me the other day. The top 4 teams, their halfbacks are all former Titans players. So Jamal Fogarty at the Raiders, Toby Sexton at the Bulldogs, even though Toby Sexton's not playing this week, Tanner Boyd at the Warriors and Jerome Hughes at the Storm, all former Titans players.
Yeah, wow.
Imagine how you feel.
Who went through and dug up that?
Yeah, I know. That's
some good...
Just to dig it into the Titans a little bit more.
Right.
Some good Sherlock Holmes.
Jerome Hughes.
Yeah, people forget. I think he only played 1 or 2 games for
games.
The Titans before he went down to the Melbourne Storm.
Well, you know, it's...
You can't get them all, but you've got to get at least one Titans.
No, well, I guess these players, for whatever reason, have either lost belief in the system they're in or, you know, there's players, or there's other players there that have thought, well, if I want to go and win a premiership, then maybe I have to leave, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the trick for the Titans, is to create that culture and environment where they all feel like they can believe and they can be successful.
Yeah. And speaking of that, the big talking point of the Titans at the moment, the end is nigh for Des Hasler. What do you guys feel about that? Because it just seems a matter of time before they part ways.
It's always hard when you know, I don't know Desi as well as you would, Wal, but, you know, these guys are people, so it's always hard to, you know, but at the end of the day, the analysis is that if it was year 1, I could understand that there'd be some teething issues, but we've got to year 2 now, and it's just...
They're getting worse.
Well, there's just hasn't been any improvement or green shoots, which is, you know, I guess is disappointing for Des more than anyone, and disappointing for the club. It's going to be difficult to see, you know, him staying on beyond this year. That's just the results.
Yeah, I think Des has said that he's disappointed in the assistance that he's had in the club. Don't know any more of it, but he's experienced some pretty good performances at another club, and done extremely well. What's going on at the Titans, I can't ever be critical after my coaching performance on the Gold Coast, which is appalling. But it just was a different place to be that had different thoughts about what they're capable of doing. And they might sound funny, but the confidence level at the club, and I'm sure it's the same at the moment, is pretty poor. And to be able to repair that is easier said than done.
What about potential list of successes? Josh Hannay's name's been tossed up. He's Billy's right-hand man at the Maroons, the assistant coach, done a lengthy apprenticeship at the Sharks too. Your thoughts on him? Every time he speaks during Origin camp, he always does the match day presser for the media. I'm always very impressed in how articulate he is.
Yeah, I think the way you use your words as a coach and articulate the game is, you know, is one part of being a good coach. I think a lot of clubs would probably look at this Cameron Ciraldo sort of effect where this guy sat next to Ivan Cleary, so, you know, a successful coach for a long time, and he brought that system into their club. And again, Ciraldo took a few years to get going. You know, so, but I think some some clubs will be thinking, well, what's the best fit for the players we got? Is it experience, or is it someone that's actually done their apprenticeship and comes in? Because Willie Peters has been
from UK.
From the UK, he's been, and wherever he's gone, he's been successful. So there's a number of candidates, but sometimes it comes down to the playing group you've got.
Yeah, okay, yep.
And basically going, well, who's going to complement this group and build them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Locky. And coaches, the plan that they've got through their career is normally the same one, and they try and employ it each and every year. And should they have players in the club that don't really fit in with that, immediate changes are necessary. But it'll be quite interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, some other names. Jason Demetrio, maybe he gets a second chance after the Rabbitohs. I'd like to see them go with Ben Teo. So Ben Teo was at the Dolphins from the get-go, served an excellent apprenticeship under Wayne Bennett. He's currently at the Broncos. Recently retired, but did his stint in the Queensland Cup managing his own team. He went to school on the Gold Coast at Qlder. He knows that system. I think they've needed to really reconnect with Qlder and Palm Beach Currumbin, the two of the best junior nurseries in the country, and reconnect with the Burleigh Bears. They've lost that to the Broncos. So I think someone like Teo, who understands the Gold Coast, would help that out a lot more. And also you've got maybe Kevy as well.
Well, Teo's a smoky. I mean, but your rationale, I get. I agree. Yep. I think connecting your team to your community is a big part of what you need to achieve. So there's a few candidates there.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Locky, usually the coaches, they've got their preferences on the style of player that's there. And if they go to a club and none of those players are there and you've almost got total opposites on display, I think it might take a little while for the coach to get used to the style of play and being able to change his game a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Kevy, right? So when he came to the Broncos, wooden spoon.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, gets him to a
grand final.
So he knows what it takes to sort of, come in.
Motivate a group,
Well, when they're down here, they need to get to there.
Spent plenty of time with Benny and learned lots of lessons.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the Titans get good, because I want to talk about positive Titan stuff on the show. We rarely get to do it.
But I think a lot of it comes down to, you talked about it before, that, the Gold Coast have been known at this club that just always underachieves.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you walk into that club and the mindset of what has gone in the past, I think must affect the current players.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I remember one of the first guys that I spoke to there, I was talking about hopefully changing and getting back in the winners list. And the reply was, I've got myself a good contract this time, so going to get good pay from it. I thought, well, I think I know one bloke that's not going to play a lot of first grade this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you're going there to, be an individual, well, if there's too many of those, then you're not going to win anything.
Yeah, interesting to see what unfolds in the next month or so at the Gold Coast Titans. But Thursday night, stay tuned, Nine's Wide World of Sports. The Dolphins up against the Cowboys, while the Broncos this week have a bye. They'll be back in action next week.